fought demons and dragons and Balrogs, and you're the one killing me. Let's call it a night, Shane. I'm serious now. Don't make me... Listen, let me put it to you like this.
You're out of ammo. Where did your health go? You'll never get far without a life bar. Don't fight them, just flee. Clearly you're sleepy. You could be snoozing instead of losing. No more dying. Please stop trying. You need skill, Shane, and you haven't got any. If gaming skills were money, then you wouldn't have a penny. You need luck, Shane, but you're flat out of that. Here comes another pitfall, and there you go, splat. I'm not surprised to see you lying there dead. I think the headshot was invented when you stuck out your head. Is there a button broke? Is this as slow as you can race? Out of only 7 racers, you're in 47th place. You must be lost now. Where's that other puzzle piece? You've been down this fucking corridor a dozen times at least. Is this Lemmings? Because you just ran off a cliff and your stupid face was priceless. I hope someone makes a gif. Game over, Shane. It's game over, Shane. That's right. Game over, Shane. Go to bed. Game over, Shane. My name is Wally, I'm a wizard, and you know I've been around. So don't be talking shit or I'ma have to put you down. I've got a magic wand, and I rock it like a mace, and then I'll hop onto my dragon and we'll torch the whole place. I'm an old boss, so they shower me with riches. I got magic in these fingers, just ask my 20 bitches. Game over, Shane. It's game over, Shane. Turn the power off.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Nexus Gaming Series Division D West playoff game. We're in the quarterfinals here, and tonight we have the number 3 seed Spicy Boys up against the number 6 Mildly Interesting, and I am joined here tonight by Park. Park, how are you doing this evening?
I am all right. How are you?
I am pretty awesome, actually. Pretty excited about this match in particular. Before we get into the teams, let's take a look at the bracket though. And if you missed it earlier today, just before this, we had our first 3-game series of the playoffs. Longhorn Gaming taking Rainbow Spectrum 2-1 in their series. So whoever wins this one is going to go up against them in the semifinals for the Western Division. But talking about these teams, I compiled a couple stats here about Spicy Boys, and we were actually joking about these stats a little bit. Top 3 heroes on the side of Spicy Boys. We've got Cho, we've got Gall, we've got Ariel. All sitting at 33% pick rates here. Also sitting at 100% win rates for Spicy Boys, but the worst news, Park, is that their Gall player is not playing tonight. They are playing with a sub who does not pick up that Gall. So, I mean, if you're Spicy Boys and you don't have your clutch 100% win rate team composition, how are you feeling about this matchup?
I think what you do is that you come up with a new strat and run it on a weird map that they're probably not expecting.
Well, we could, that's also going to lead to some very interesting things once we get into the map bans. Taking a look, though, at Mildly Interesting, their actually best battleground, Battlefield of Eternity, was banned out tonight. So very interesting, and actually banned out by them. So that's also an interesting statistic. Also, Malfurion having a very high priority on their side. So possibly a target ban. We don't necessarily see Malfurion banned out. However, it's playoffs, so I mean, if it's a weapon that your team has, is it worth the Malf ban? Is really the question, Park. Like, is it worth getting rid of it just because you know that's probably coming up?
Really, when you're talking about what to ban, you're basically weighing meta versus comfort, and I think definitely for these teams, it's probably going to side on the side of comfort. At least if they've done their scouting and they know what each other like, I think that it's highly likely that we'll start seeing some comfort bans, especially considering the hero pool of the captain on the side of Mildly Interesting, who has only played 2 heroes all season.
Yeah, Malfurion is one and Sonya is the other. So 2 not super meta heroes coming in for them, but also possibly makes them an absolute target for those bans potentially. Let's do a quick review of map bans and picks before we get into the series. So banning out Battlefield of Eternity like we talked about. Also a ban on Dragonshire, and first pick coming out from Spicy Boys, and you talked about it, brings them somewhere weird. We're going to Brax's Holdout. And based on what we know about these teams, what are your initial thoughts on that?
Usually whenever you see somebody pick Braxis, it means somebody has something weird they want to run. And they're probably going to run some kind of cheese, or at least something very non-standard that they're not expecting to get easily countered. Traditionally, that has been what Braxis is a map, because at least in the pro scene, usually the team that gets first pick on Braxis wins. So why would you ever pick Braxis unless you're running cheese?
I mean, it is, I feel like you're right. The only time it comes out is when there's something very interesting in particular coming out. And given that the Cho'Gall isn't on the table, it looks like we've had actually a disconnect here. What's some of your favorite cheese that you've seen? Because I've definitely seen the Cho'Gall. We actually saw a Cho'Gall on Brax's Holdout last night in Div D West. What else do you think we might actually see here?
So, the weird thing about Braxis is that it's all about your laning matchups. And that's why historically you've seen a lot of things like Zarya come out. You've seen things like Ragnaros and Phoenix suddenly get picked because they can clear the Zerg wave so well. And you've seen things like solo support Abathur, 1-3-1s. My guess is that somebody either figured out a really oppressive four-man or a really oppressive off-laning strat, and they're going to pull out some really crazy hero and then just run it down.
Yeah, I know in the past, and I don't think it was necessarily a Brax's holdout cheese. Like, we saw it back in Warhead Junction was still a thing in HEC, but you see the Zarya came out for that cheese, but I have seen her run that same way on Braxis, so it'd be really interesting to see her come out and kind of abuse those energy shields that she does have available. I feel like Sylvanas was always the go-to cheese hero for a long time, and still kind of is for some folks. But do you think that we might see her here, or is that a bit more less not optimal, less likely from these teams?
I think that if you're running cheese, Sylvanas is always on the table. If you're the thing about Sylvanas on this map is that something people don't actually think about is that a major thing on Braxis is that you actually rotate between bot and top and vice versa much faster if you can actually go over terrain. So there was actually a strat. This was like a year and a half ago, I think, run by a Chinese team, which was to take Sylvanas and a four-man that could push and go over terrain. And then they would just run between the two lanes and make the enemy team chase them, and they always rotated faster because they could go over the terrain in the middle of the map.
That's such a good point that I don't think I've heard anyone else really discuss. So it's really interesting that you're bringing that up, because that's absolutely such a strength of hers.
Yeah. And in that kind of style, the thing that Sylvanas lets you do is that it's just, you could always push. It doesn't matter where or how, you just always have the option. The other thing is that if you do manage to find a way to just get the first objective, Sylvanas will probably get you a keep if she doesn't die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, being able to quickly clear out Zerg's too and turn off any damaging your own Zerg wave, it just can very quickly snowball if you don't keep good tabs on her. So if you do end up facing that Sylvanas and you have to keep tabs on her, what are a couple of the often seen quote-unquote counters to her that might show up specifically on Braxis or just in general?
Usually the counterplay to Sylvanas is either kill the Sylvanas or just force team fights, because Sylvanas does not do very much damage in fights. She really does not contribute to it unless she has already snowballed the game to the point where you have a massive XP lead. Sylvanas just doesn't do a whole lot in a fight. She does a little bit of poke damage, she has like a little bit of burst, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
On Braxis in particular, I would say most roaming heroes are pretty good into Sylvanas because they can just try to catch her and then kill her. So you can see like Genji, Maiev, that kind of a thing. Otherwise, you could just do very traditional anti-siege heroes like Junkrat, Chromie, even maybe now that she got recently buffed, just to make it more threatening to try to siege.
Sure, we're just quickly figuring out some issues. Looks like one of the members had their router kind of hit the bed. So we're just figuring out if they need to bring in a sub or not. So actually, while we sort this out, sorry folks, we will take a quick break just so we don't have to talk your ear off. And we will be back with game one eventually on Brax's holdout between Spicy Boys and Mildly Interesting. So hopefully in a couple minutes, we'll be back, so stick around. All right, boys and girls, we are back here. Sorry about that delay, but we have worked out all these technical issues. And Park, we were talking a bit about this about this map, I feel like, for a long time. But let's finally get into it. The draft for Brax's Holdout. There we go. All right. Getting into it. So we'll have to see if we get that ever so love Sylvanas. I don't recall seeing too much Urel played by either of these teams. And I've seen her used a lot just for controlling. She can pretty handily control that top beacon so long as it's 1v1 against whoever the opposing team's solo laner is. So I'm wondering if either of these teams want to try their hand at her. But bans. Going over to mildly interesting first. We'll have to see if they still want to ban out. I believe it's the Asmodan that they really love to ban. It's either that or the Genji, which on this map, I feel like both of those are, somewhat likely to show up.
Yeah, Genji is always really powerful on this map. We talked about how you can go over terrain. Well, Genji can go over both pieces of terrain. He's amazing at ganking. And, ooh, the Valera ban comes out.
That's kind of sneaky. Not wanting that stealth to come around. She can definitely punish someone who thinks they can, sneak the beacon control when something else is happening on the map, but she's one of those heroes that can punish someone for thinking that and not thinking it through too much, if you know what I mean.
Mildly Interesting is a Valera team, and I am a big fan of Valera. For anybody who knows me, I think that she's wildly underrated. She has a lot of burst. She's a very late game hero, but she can basically 100-0 any squishy. She provides a lot of CC. She can roam. She can offlane. I think that she's really good on this map. So I'm happy to see that ban come out.
And in response, we have two mages being pulled off the table, Gul'dan and Jaina. Gul'dan, I feel like more so the mage that gets a lot of value here, but Kerrigan makes it through the draft. First pick here for Mildly Interesting. I keep forgetting to keep an eye out for her in the ban phase, and she just keeps sneaking through here.
Yeah, Kerrigan is really, really overtuned right now, for anybody who didn't know, for all 5 of you. I am amazed that she got through the ban phase.
Yeah, she's absolutely ridiculous right now, and just for context, I was doing one of the quests for the current event, and one of them was the get the MVP or some kind of similar role, and I was having the worst time getting that, so I just switched over the Kerrigan and just bodied a whole team and cleared that out quickly. So she is strong where she is, but Cassie and Meriden coming up to round out with her. The Sugov and Zebo pickup, though, on the side of Spicy Boys, which I also believe are two fairly common picks for them. So Stukov with the Lurking Arm has a lot of control over grouped opponents and could potentially be punished on depending on who comes out to round out their team.
Yeah, Stukov is also a very sustained, high throughput healer. He's very good on this map. He's good at enabling picks, and typically when you're running like a 1-4, which most teams do, you having just that really high sustain healer is really nice.
So we do see the Malfurion ban from Spicy Bois, so that likely means, unless it's picked up by them, we're going to see a Sonya at some point for mildly interesting, unless they decide to switch things up for Magnus Opus.
Yeah, which would not be surprising. They still don't have an offlaner to go to that top lane, so I would expect to see the Sonya picked up.
Yeah, I do just keep finding it so funny that two total heroes in the entirety so far of NGS. Oddly, and I kind of stopped thinking about it, we do see the Zarya picked up for Spicy Bois, rounded out by a Kel'Thuzad, which I saw another Div D team wreck with on Brax's holdout. So I love that pickup here, being able to potentially get a lot of punish so long as the combos are on point.
Yeah, Kel'Thuzad here definitely really strong. This is, if you're doing just the general 4v4, and Kel'Thuzad can get stacked really quickly that way. If you're just having two teams that are running around on the beacons, it's just like Stack City.
Yeah, those stacks happen monumentally quickly, which is the last thing you want. Because once those stacks are done, then Kel'Thuzad is kind of a beast. But I'm curious who's the main front line. It's going to be Anubarak, which is pretty decent, I would say.
I'm a little bit concerned about the Anubarak pick because Anubarak is one of the squishier tanks in the game. Like he has a great escape and he's somewhat tanky so long as he has a shield up, but there's a lot of damage on the side of Mildly Interesting right now between Kerrigan and Cassia, who right now are two of the highest damage throughput DPS heroes in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot to punish if you go into too deep, and I also just feel like other than the shields coming out from Zarya, there's not so much to really support an Anubarak who goes too far in. And so I'll agree with you that Anubarak could possibly just be deleted left and right if they are just burrowing through and trying to get to that backline without trying to work around whatever abilities are up from the rest of the team. I think there's certain things that can help out. You have the Lurking Arm to maybe support that. If Nazeebo is a god at landing those zombie walls, maybe there's some kind of combination there, but I don't see a lot that screams synergy for me with that kind of playstyle, so we'll have to see how the bug does over on here. It looks like we just got a party host from Gravesville. Ladies and gentlemen, you are here for game 1 of this series, so I hope you are the most excited you have ever been in your entire life. We are going to get into game number 1 here. In the blue, we do have Spicy Bois. We are going to have Red Air on the Kel'Thuzad. Sneezy will be on that Stukov. Artanis will be on Zarya. Wolfrain on the Anubarak. And USO on the Nazeebo.
And on the right here, we have Mildly Interesting with Miss Windup Bird on Cassia, Magnus Opus on Sonya, Rally on Kerrigan, Happy Pants on Muradin, and Walrex on Ana.
Yeah, we didn't
Standard
see...
1-4 here?
Yeah, pretty standard 1-4. I feel like this didn't get as cheese as I was definitely hoping for based on what we were talking about kind of before the game started, but I do like seeing the rise of Kel'Thuzad here in Division D. Wolfrain, though, going right in, trying to get some damage. Rally with the follow-up. Lurking Arm goes out to zone a little bit. Heals are there for Stukov, and I think this should reset so long as Spicy Bois doesn't keep going in too deep.
Yeah, and you can just look at the Kerrigan damage here. Look at how much she is wrecking face and hardly taking any damage in return.
And she has so much support from Walrex on that Ana as well in case things start to go a little bit awry earlier in the game. But Happy Pants with the Stormbolt being able to stun out anyone who might be giving Kerrigan a hard time. And even outside of that, Kerrigan just a beast to kill nowadays. And just
that combo.
Combo's there. It was a beautiful combo.
That was a 3-man combo. Still can't finish anybody off, but that damage, imagine that with a nano boost late game.
I'm shaking in my boots just thinking about that, to be entirely honest. That is going to be absolutely disgusting. I wonder if eventually Red Air will be able to, once the Kel'Thuzad stacks are completed, kind of match into that Annihilation, because on someone like the Ana, or even possibly the Kerrigan, I feel like Kel'Thuzad can do a lot of damage in the right scenario. I don't know if it's equal to that of Kerrigan, though.
Yeah, the problem with Kel'Thuzad is that unless you're always going to be comboing with the Glacial Spike, you have to step up in order to chain, which means that Kerrigan and Cassie are just going to be able to walk up to you and, you know, kill you.
Oh, 9 health from USO. Trying to keep that point away from Sonya, but Magnus knows that Sonya pretty well, as we talked about. Chain goes out onto Kerrigan, chains them to the Cassia here.
Yeah. And here's one of the problems we were kind of talking about, is that Anub'arak's health pool just isn't large enough for him to be able to stand on the point very well.
Yeah, I wonder if this is something that Spicy Boys decide to give up early game and say, we can deal with an early Zerg wave, it's no big deal. They've already lost 48% in favor of their opponent, so they are going to have something coming at them when the time comes. Rally taking a bit of damage from Kel'Thuzad, but this poor Nazebo against the Sonya.
Yeah, this Nazebo is not going to have a fun time, especially trying to cap the point, just because most range will lose to melee on any kind of point control map like this.
Do you maybe send the Zarya up top to kind of help out that Nazebo and potentially force a rotation out of your team to help defend against 2 people rather than keeping one up there?
I think that it's an option. I'm not really sure if I like the option, because as soon as if I'm mildly interesting right now, as soon as I see that Zarya go top lane, I just immediately start shoving bot as hard as I can.
And Rally sees the rest of Spicy Boys here, trying to get the camp. She immediately pounces, gets one down. Sukov's out of the fight. Zarya falls as well. Red Air is going to get away there, but the camp steal coming out from mildly interesting here with that Kerrigan. She's a scary thing to deal with for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of dive potential here, and Kel'Thuzad is very diveable, so is Stukov. So I'm just a little bit worried right now for the side of Spicy Boys.
Yeah, the camp call, while they didn't have that Anub'arak, I thought was very risky as he came up to kind of help with this top beacon. USO, though, going to fall here to the slam of Sonya.
And beacon progress, coming towards that mildly interesting now.
When we think about the wave clear, because I'm just going to assume here, and maybe I shouldn't, but mildly interesting, they've got a really great head start. They're going to have a really good Zerg wave pushing in their lane, regardless of whether or not their opponent can catch up. Who wins on the wave clear here? Because Sonya on one side, and even the damage that comes out from Kerrigan can assist there, but does Spicy Boys have enough of their own to maybe default to we're a defending team and not focus so much on getting the more powerful beacon?
I don't think that they have enough wave clear that it's like, oh yeah, Zerg wave. What's that? Their wave clear is decent, but Kel'Thuzad is somewhat short range. He has some amount of wave clear, but it's not amazing. Nazebo is kind of the same way. I definitely think that the biggest problem is just them trying to be able to step up to clear it against a Kerrigan Cassia.
Yeah, and usually with assassins, you don't have to worry about them literally yanking you closer to them, for the exception being, I think, Maiev being the only one. But Kerrigan, with, you know, being able to pull you in, being able to get the damage out, and then also stun you in place, there is just so much that you think you're safe behind the wall, but you're actually not. So the Zerg wave is going fairly fast right now, which is great. It still is a bit early, so it is not terribly strong and at least can be dealt with for the time being. Kel'Thuzad getting a lot of damage onto Happy Pants, though, and mildly interesting, give up the push for now.
It's interesting to me that they sent Kerrigan top lane instead of trying to push with them. Kerrigan is by far their best sieging hero in this composition. And they did it to let Sonya take this camp, but this camp is just going to get cleared by the Nazebo. It hardly got any structure damage on that fort.
Ooh, big dive going on to Happy Pants, but the Dwarf Toss is there, but the chain's coming out from Red Air, pulling him just a bit longer, but no follow-up to get Murden out. which is hard to do at this point anyway. Silence going on to 2 though, but that does not save Kel'Thuzad. Kerrigan does fall at the same time, however, so I feel like with her out of the picture now, if this is a chance to maybe get a bit ahead in the spot lane, Spicy Boys have to take the next 10 seconds to kind of do so.
Yeah. Right now, I think it's mostly just going to be most of the teams just staring at each other. I don't think anybody wants to risk much with both carries being down, but Kel'Thuzad, only 1 stack away from being stacked.
How much do you think that's going to make a difference? Because it's definitely strong. Do you think it's enough strong to kind of counter what's been happening in favor of Mildly Interesting so far?
I think that is going to be entirely determined on the skill of the Kel'Thuzad, to be honest, and the positioning of Mildly Interesting. I think it could do very little, and I think it could carry them the entire game, depending on what happens.
Well, it's completed now, so we're going to have to check that, or keep an eye on if Red Air can bring that value. But level 10's quickly approaching for Mildly Interesting. About half a level left. Spicy Boys trying to do what they can before that happens. They get the root onto 2, onto Rally and Happy Pants. Happy Pants going to Dwarf Toss out, uses the Thunderclap for a bit more damage. Rally going to probably hearth back for the time being. Actually just ends up tapping. So the defense is still there in the bot. Camp grab by Magnus Opus to help with a bit of siege pressure as we go into these next beacons. We have level 10. We'll have to see how they use it. Magnus Opus uses the leap? He uses the leap to get out of that camp call.
There's the nano boost on the Kerrigan, both teams posturing. Kel'Thuzad's come out, and the Kerrigan picks up 2, it looks like. Or, maybe, yep, 3.
It's so disgusting because you have just Kerrigan doing Kerrigan things. You have Ball Lightning coming out to harass. You have Thunderclap from Murden adding a bit of slow to everyone as well. So you're just caught into a Ball Lightning you can't get out of, and some Kerrigan cleaves right to the face. So Beacon Progress going to start going over to Mildly Interesting. They're sitting at a 1 level lead here. Root goes out onto Rally, but Red Air all by themselves just can't get a Kerrigan down without the support of the rest of the team.
Ooh, he had 10 there too. He just didn't have enough time to pick it before finishing that combo. That's such a feels bad man moment for Red Air.
For the next time, though. It's there for the next time.
I think I'm going to make a prediction right now that unless Kel'Thuzad can kill somebody in the first 4 seconds of every fight, Mildly Interesting is going to win.
Much like that, would you say?
Yes, much like that. Unless they could do that every single time, I think Mildly Interesting is just going to completely wreck face with Nano Boost and Kerrigan.
Oh, I missed mine up or getting just so close to falling there. Nazebo, though, going to fall yet again to the Sonya up top. But the heroics here, it looks like Kel'Thuzad knows what he has to do, so Beacon Progress going to hopefully be capped here for Spicy Boys to start getting back into the circuit.
That was such a clutch sleep right there.
Oh, so
She got chained and then immediately slept the Kel'Thuzad before he could finish the combo.
On a Kel'Thuzad counter confirmed.
100%.
I thought Spicy Boys were going to be able to have an easier time grabbing these beacons for the time being, but they've actually lost control of it again. This windup going in. Red Air now down. That catastrophic combo is now no longer available for Spicy Boys. Artan is taking a lot of damage. Sneezy there with the flailing arm to make sure they escape, but this is looking better and better as things go on for Mildly Interesting here. And I am struggling to see how that changes unless Kel'Thuzad can just stay alive the entire time, which has been difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they have pretty much all of their eggs in the Kel'Thuzad basket right now, and there's not a whole lot that they can do to change that.
Yeah, I also feel like the very early priority on Nazebo here might have been a shot in the foot, just because usually Nazebo is the one running around on his own kind of doing things, and given that he was the pick that they're sending into Sonya in that top lane, there's just not a lot he's able to do either. So, you know, already thinking into game number 2, Spicy Boys, there's a lot of kinks I think they need to work out with these kind of decisions of who has the responsibility, who's going to be that front line. And I mean, we talked about Wolfrain on that Anubrak. It just hasn't been enough for a lot of these fights so far.
Yeah, So the strength of the Nubrak is mostly that he's really good at killing somebody in about 3 seconds and then really bad outside of that. And right now, I think that Kerrigan just can kill pretty much anybody on the entire enemy team.
And I mean, she's been doing a great job. It's 11 kills to 3 in favor of Mildly Interesting as well, so she's doing what she does best, and that's killing enemy teammates. But these Zergs almost cleared up here. Rally and Red Air though. Oh, the Ultralisk comes out, the stun. Kills off Kel'Thuzad. And I just feel like Red Air needs to take a step back and know that like you can't 1v1 a Kerrigan as a Kel'Thuzad.
Yeah, it's not a fun matchup. I'm not sure anybody can really 1v1 Kerrigan right now, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I don't think there is. Maybe like yeah, no, probably not. Not even gonna think about it.
The only thing I could think of is a Twin Blades variant, and even then I'm still like, maybe?
A lot of damage going in onto Sukov, who's going to fall. The camp was at least claimed by Spicy Boys, as Mildly Interesting were trying to claim it on their own, so that's something they denied. The Ravenous Spirit comes out, but with Cassia harassing the Nazebo, ends up being quickly canceled. No kills in that fight in favor of Spicy Boys. Who end up losing 1, and they're slowly starting to lose a handle on this game. They're down 2 levels already. Their opponents are getting closer and closer to level 16, and they're eyeing that boss as well, which can't be defended by Spicy Boys. So things are starting to get at it. They're gonna scout. They better not go in.
I don't think that they're scouting it. This might just be a free boss. Oh, they're scouting?
Artanis
that might
goes
be
in.
a dead Zarya if they engage on her right now.
Rally going
Combo.
in. Combo's there. Shield onto Red Air. The Cocoon onto the Kerrigan, though. Ultrius coming out.
Boss was capped.
Yeah, Boss was capped. They weren't able to defend that, and ended up spending 2 heroics in the or I think just 1 heroic in that process. And now have to defend against this top boss, not even focus on the beacons. Not to mention Mildly Interesting going to be coming up right behind there with level 16s and saying, we're going to possibly keep pushing. If you want to fight, it's at your own risk.
Yeah, this is likely going to be instantly both beacons capped, which is going to be a huge advantage. And now with the 16s, it's going to be difficult to stop this snowball.
Have to see how the 5-man ends up rotating, sticking together here for Spicy Boys. If they can get another pick like they did earlier. The Graviton Surge goes out, but Kel'Thuzad is going to get deleted.
Massive swipe coming in, continuing to brawl. Cocoon on the Kerrigan, still not broken yet. And both teams are looking to disengage.
Kel'Thuzad, though, has returned, so was able to get that 1 last heroic in, trying to make something happen in that fight, but just quite not yet. As the rest of the team, they're rotating bot. They may try to play musical chairs here with these beacons just to try to stall this out and get 16 for themselves. The silence goes out, gets Sonya. Sonya's going to fall. That is a great pick for them here. They are now in a 5v4 situation, which is
Kel'Thuzad is isolated though, and he's getting dove on by Kerrigan. The combo comes out, misses. There's so much fiesta going on.
There's so much fiesta. The zombie wall. Nazebo being inside of it tried to possibly get a kill on for himself there. Graviton Surge is going to go out, but Zarya is still going to fall, and Anubarak should be falling as well here. The shields are there, but the pull-in from Rally secures that the bug is squashed. 4 kills in favor of Mildly Interesting, even though they were a member down.
Yeah, there is one saving grace right now, I think, for Spicy Boys, and that is Nazebo. Nazebo has 122 stacks right now and also took Big Voodoo. If they can get to 20, I think that they have a legitimate chance of winning the game. But I'm not sure if the game's going to go on that long.
Yeah, I think it depends on if they lose a keep or not during this push, because I feel like once the keep is gone, like, Mildly Interesting might decide, like, we're gonna go in and try to finish anyway, because we have a Kerrigan on our side, and what are you going to do about that? And they seem like the type to just go balls to the wall and say, let's just try to finish this as soon as possible. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I don't know how much longer this game lasts, and it really depends on, does that structure stay alive?
Ooh, fighting in the lane, though.
Not
That
the
is
best.
a dangerous decision.
not the safest call, I would say. Sneezy taking a lot of damage there, ends up tapping the well. Kel'Thuzad falling from behind the line, though. Wolfrain getting the shield, ends up burrowing away, but this should be keep, and yeah, I don't know if Spicy Boys really defends this. Zarya's going to go down. Wolfrain, again, trying to get out of there, but Rally is just YOLOing all over these fools, saying, you let Kerrigan through.
Yeah. Unbridled energy. I think this might be game here.
Yeah, still a couple pieces of that Zergwig in the immediate focus onto Anubarak. The lurking arm there, not really catching anyone for too long. They walk away. They're focusing on the core. The shield is already gone. The score is sitting at 50% and falling fast. Game number 1 going over to mildly interesting here with the Kerrigan carry. Oh goodness, I can't believe she got through. And just the Nazebo Kel'Thuzad in the Anubarak pickups really not super doing it for me for that match, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that the merits of the Kel'Thuzad definitely were shown. He did get some good combos there, but I really don't think that you can let Kerrigan through. I think that you have to ban it.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see that adjustment possibly over something like the Jaina ban that we saw in Game 1 from Spicy Boys instead. But it depends on if they want first pick or map pick in game number 2, so I'm going to find that out right now as I find the captain, Spicy Boys. Let's see here. So fun scrolling through a list of of folks. All right. All right, and yeah, thinking about game number 2, Spicy Boys, do you think there's any possible like comfort maps if they decide to go map pick that they can bring their opponents to that maybe gives them a bit of an advantage in the series?
I mean, usually when you're going for comfort picks, you're basically saying we're okay we're okay getting a draft disadvantage, but we know how to play the map better. Right now they've played most of their games on Infernal Shrines is their most played map. So I'm wondering if that's where they'll go to. Alternatively, maybe they have another cheese strat they want to try to pull out on something else.
All right, so we're going to have Spicy Boys picking up map pick. So let's see what they end up choosing here. Ooh, very exciting. I know it. Let's see, let's set this up. Let's actually go over to the maps real fast. So we are going to be going to Infernal Shrines for game 2, which I love. Given that Towers of Doom, Towers of Doom wasn't banned out, but I feel like it's one of those, it can go back and forth for a long time, and anyone can still win, you know?
Yeah. I would say Shrines is also just another one of those maps, much like Towers, where a lot of different strategies are viable. Because you can have like pushing, the map is big enough that split push can work pretty well, and the objective scales well enough that team fight comps work really well, and there's just a lot of different things that you can run on the map that still work.
Yeah, and when I think about like the Sonya pickup on the side of mildly interesting, like it's not the most picked for wave clear in the offlane pick these days, but she totally still works here, and so I wouldn't be surprised to maybe instead see the ban onto her rather onto that Malfurion, since we talked about those being kind of the 2 heroes for Magnus Opus.
Yeah, I think that's likely. This is one of Sonya's better maps as well. just because she has so much clear on the objective that you can just kind of stick a Sonya on there and she clears it so quickly that you can send your 4-man to do whatever they want. I would also be interested to see if they actually did just target ban out both the Sonya and the Malfurion.
That would be... There's so much you leave open, though, there. And so, and I think we talked a little bit about that, like, that risk assessment, right? Of, do you just ban out both of those heroes and say, play something else that you haven't played at all this season? Or do you go with something a bit safer, a bit more, I don't know, likely, I suppose? Maybe something that's not as... Because I don't see Malfurion or Sonya maybe being the highest priority picks. You know?
I agree, but they're both functional picks, and forcing your opponents off of their comfort heroes can be really good. This is something that's going to change depending on the team, but a strong pick doesn't actually matter if you can't play the hero, just in general.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of works the same way when it comes down to comfort picks that way. If you can force them onto a hero that they actually are not comfortable with and don't have a lot of practice with, at least in a team setting, that can definitely show.
That is absolutely true. We're just getting this lobby set up, so apologies as I'm slightly distracted from that happening. I don't have quick access to Sass of the Storm right now, but I'm trying to think if there's like any other fun happenings that could potentially come out here.
Just thinking about general things about Infernal Shrines when you're talking about fun strats, this is a very good map for D.Va. It's a very good map for Alexstrasza.
D.Va. That would be sweet. I would love to see a D.Va,
to be honest.
I would too.
Yeah. Her D.Va Explosion can secure you usually about 10 minions, and it forces the enemy team off of the shrine. So it's definitely her best map by far. Mm-hmm. And she can function either as an offlane or as a main.
Yeah, if Division D wants to get a little risky and do the main tank D.Va, which I think a lot of teams aren't necessarily the most like gung-ho to run her that way, but you never know. It's playoffs. It could potentially be Spicy Boy's last game, so they might have to pull something out of the blue. They might have to do something a little crazy.
Yeah. Other than that, Infernal Shrines is also just another one of those more general battlegrounds. You could see so many different things. I wonder if that they're going to just go back to comfort now. A lot of times you'll see that with teams when they try something weird and new and then it doesn't work and they're like, all right, let's just go back to all what we know how to play now and just try to get out a win that way.
Yeah, that would be I kind of really wish that Spicy Boys' Gall player was here today just to see that come out. And as we get the scores updated here as well, mildly interesting, sitting one game up in this best of 3, so they could potentially take this 2-0, make it further into the Division D West playoffs here on NGS, but only time will tell. But mildly interesting has the first pick, and maybe they decide they're going to ban out the Kerrigan rather than give it to Spicy Boys.
Given that they already show that they're willing to first pick it, I think that they just force Spicy Boys to ban it out. I would be very surprised if Mildly Interesting banned it.
I do like the Kael'thas ban, and I know we saw it kind of later in the draft from them last time, but Kael'thas, you know, he's one of those heroes that maybe doesn't work everywhere, but he works super well on Infernal.
Yeah, this is definitely his best map, I think. Okay, there's the Kerrigan ban. I am very relieved.
Respect.
Kerrigan is so dumb right now.
But also, I mean, that shows that Spicy Boy is not necessarily willing to run her, which I find very interesting.
I mean, given that they're second pick both games, and they first picked the Kerrigan last game, there's nothing to indicate they won't just do it again.
Mm-hmm.
I think right now, if you have second pick, you just need to ban her if you know they have a Kerrigan player.
Diablo, not going to see the light of day here in game number 2. Too many walls for him to shadow charge onto. A lot of devastation that he definitely brings to this map as well. So that's 2 Fire Boys actually banned out for mildly interesting. Quite literally not wanting the Spicy Boys here.
Very true. I believe Blaze and Alexstrasza are still open, and Ragnaros.
There you go. I think I was talking with Tyro yesterday. Like, what if you just draft a team that's entirely fire-based heroes, and if that would work? And I actually think you could. Think it works. But Cassie is going to be banned out, and I like the Respect Cassia ban. Definitely did a lot of work on the side of Mildly Interesting that game. Muradin first pick though for Mildly Interesting.
Yeah, really standard. It doesn't show anything. Muradin works in almost every single composition. He's just a really nice sack of meat to stick on your phone.
Oh, and look at this Sonya takeaway. Followed up with a very early Alarak.
Alarak might not be fire, but I think he's pretty spicy.
Right? It's like, if this is potentially your last game, bring it out. Bring it all out. I wonder, do we see the Malfurion pick up here for Magnus now that the Sonya is picked up from the opposing team?
Yeah, I think it's very likely. I'd be mildly surprised if they didn't.
Ooh, we do get the Valera, and we're getting a Deckard Cain instead, so something here is changing up for Mildly Interesting for potentially the first time this entire season, and I love it. I am here for it. Deckard just being a fantastic supporter. I don't know who typically plays Deckard, if anyone, on the side of Mildly Interesting.
I can look it up here in a second.
I'm just wondering who that usual, because I feel like they have played it, but
they
it's
have played it twice before.
Okay.
And I am trying to see who the player is.
Garrosh Band coming out from Spicy Boys here, which makes me think they're preparing to go full up in the face with whatever composition that they're planning with. So you have the Sonya. We might see something like the Anubarak again, even though it didn't have a lot of success last time. If you're going in along with the Sonya, maybe you can get out of there alive more often than we saw Wolfrain last game.
I'd really like to see a Tyrande right now on the side of Spicy Boys, assuming that they play it, because not only is it really good at just blowing people up, which Alarak and Sonya want to do, it also cleanses silences, which means that Valera is going to get way less value.
Very good point. I wonder, Sylvanas Johanna, rad. I wonder, is there a Brightwing potentially in the future of Spicy Boys? Like, is that even an option? Is that on the table whatsoever?
I think it's definitely on the table. I think Brightwing is strong enough to be run right now. It's mostly just, do you want to run it into the Valera? And do you think that Brightwing is going to, give enough help with what they're trying to do, I suppose, as a team?
Mm-hmm. Asmodan being picked up for Mildly Interesting, and Asmodan gets a lot of value here on Infernal Shrines. The Jaina as well, so clearing out those shrines, not a problem, but the Ariel coming out here, which I know it's been played a lot by Spicy Boys, but
they don't have a battery. They don't have anybody to charge the Ariel. Alarak is okay at it in fights, but it's not amazing. Alarak is not consistent damage.
I'm wondering if it ends up being the Sonya, depending on what kind of build she goes. Or, I mean, at that point, it's either that or the Sylvanas. And I don't love the Sylvanas as the option.
Yeah. I am really worried about how much healing that Ariel is going to be able to do. Also, another thing to consider, if she goes Crystal Aegis as a save mechanic, it's going to telegraph exactly where she's going to be for Asmodan, Jaina, and Deckard, who all just want to set up their things like slightly beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really worried about on the side of Spicy Boys here.
Yeah, that's going to be, if it happens, a big yikes from me, as the children say these days. But yeah, just there were so many other options, and like the Stukov play wasn't bad per se from Spicy Boys in that last game. It was just a bit hard to kind of get the most value out of, but I don't know. Maybe there's something we're not thinking about. I don't want to doubt Spicy Boys entirely, but I definitely have questions for sure. But let's get into this game number 2. Mildly interesting versus Spicy Boys. Can Spicy Boys get the win here? We are going to have Artanis on the Alarak, which is not confusing whatsoever. USO is going to be on the Ariel, Sneezy on the Johanna. We are going to have Red Air on the Sylvanas, and Wolfrain will be on that Sonya.
And for mildly interesting, we have Rally on Jaina, Miss Windup Bird on Deckard, Magnus Opus on Asmodan, Happy Pants on Muradin, and Walrex on Valera.
Very excited to see where this goes. We do have the Scroll Quest coming out for Deckard, which is not super common. Scroll of Identify.
Yeah. The problem with Scroll of Identify is just that there's no real way to guarantee that your roots land all the time without Sapphire, which unfortunately is at the exact same talent tier. Oh, but the Valera's going in for some early damage.
Yeah, gets a bit of damage onto the Alarak in the back. Walrex is going to be sneaky this entire game, just kind of going onto the back line, getting a bit of damage in, and really just putting the mind game onto Spicy Boys, I feel like, to say, I can come out anytime. You just have to figure out where I am.
Yeah, definitely. Valera is really good at trying to pick off isolated targets. She's really good at roaming, which she's doing right now. And I think that it's just going to be a struggle because there's not a whole lot of easy counterplay. Like, I think the flashlight on Johanna is the only thing that, like, really easily knocks her out of stealth.
I mean, if there was a little bit more damage there, or maybe if Sylvanas wasn't so low on health, that could have been a Valera pickoff, but, I mean, Sylvanas is the solo lane down there without that kind of self-sustain. She, like you were saying, is just such a big target for Valera, so she's going to be harassed this entire game, but,
Ooh.
barely getting out.
Yeah, I think that the Sylv, if they're going to have the Sylv solo lane like this, I think that she legit just needs to stand behind towers and just do her best to freeze the lane, because if she steps out, she dies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's going to have to be the most cautious she has ever been in her entire life. It doesn't matter if she leads the Horde now. She is going to get beat the heck up by the elf. Science goes out onto Happy Pants, still kind of leading that charge in. So trying to get some hope generated here, as we talked about who the battery is.
Looks like it's going to be the Alarak. Again, I think it's questionable, but we'll see how it works.
I'll have to keep an eye on those numbers as well. I'm very curious, maybe halfway through the game, how that goes. Sylvanas, though, Red Air barely getting out of here. Walrex doing a fantastic job keeping her at bay and getting that soak in the bottom lane. But Shrine #1 activating down there in bottom, so whoever can control that, I'd like to see these teams maybe pick up some kind of camp pressure before this begins. You have that Sylvanas, that's something she's really good with, and if you get Sonya in there to help her as well, that's a camp that you can easily body with. Walrex, though, finding an Alarak. Stun goes out, Stormbolt, the dunk is there as well. Happy Pants trying to keep Artanis busy here, but ends up being punished by the rest of Spicy Boys, ends up using the door top to get out, but Walrex right up in there trying to finish off the kill, gets silenced herself. Valera ends up being first blood, and a very interesting turn of events here, Park.
Indeed. So one thing that I was thinking about, Spicy Boys has Sylvanas, and Mildly Interesting has Asmodan. Now, Asmodan is not the best early game hero, and he's not going to do a whole lot to contest this first objective. If Spicy Boys could just pick up the first objective, they might get an enormous amount of value out of it with the Sylvanas pick.
Yeah, and I feel like if they're able to get a significant enough advantage before Asmodan can really complete those stacks, they'll be in a great position going into the late game, but they also have to make sure that they're not actively helping Asmodan stack, which is really hard in these shrine areas, as you see everyone just kind of grouped together and Magnus Opus saying, here's the dunk, let's bring it out. One last for good luck with this Punisher going over to Spicy Boys.
I'm hoping that they baited over the wall. It looks like they're getting a position to do so.
Walrex trying to get the kill onto Wolfrain just there. It's up sneaking away.
Alright, Punisher is baited over the wall. This will probably be, with the Sylph pushing, probably going to be the whole fort, I think, and minimum is going to be the fort wall. Depends how much they want to dive on this.
I'd be a little bit concerned. They haven't seen Valera in a bit since the shrine actually ended. And we see Wallach just up there waiting in the shadows. She ends up finding an Ariel. Condemn comes out though. Walrax now the focus, taking a lot of damage. Sylvanas on the run, trying to finish off the kill. Not being punished for that, but goodness, Red Air. Chill, my friends.
And I think that you're just seeing some of the problems with the Valera here. There's no easy way to knock her out of stealth. Like if you have a Malfurion, if you have a Tassadar, it's really easy to just knock her out. But so long as she gets to stay in stealth, she's like, hey, I got 3-second silence here. Come at me, bro.
We do see, at least for now, Ariel absolutely keeping up with the heals compared to Decker Kane. We're looking at roughly 15,000 and 14,000 respectively, so looking all right so far. But will it work in the long term, I think, is a big question of mine here.
Yeah, it's going to depend how much the Alarak can get value, which is going to also depend a lot on how much mildly interesting clumps as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage though. Wolfrain with the spin to win, trying to get Miss Wind Up Bird out of the picture. Happy Pants barely surviving there. Walrus trying to sneak up, maybe clean up some of what is left here, but is found by the Alarak. The whip's coming out from USO. Not able to get the pick just yet, but they are showing they're ready to fight here and can survive almost any dive that Walrex seems to be trying to achieve in a lot of these engagements.
Yeah. As much as I am praising Valera, she cannot 1v4.
But can she? I mean... Ooh, great save there from Artanis, saving Red Air from the dive on from Valera.
Lots of map pressure coming out with the Sylv here, as both teams are trying to keep up some amount of a 4-man rotation, but just the amount of pressure being put right now on Mildly Interesting, it's so much.
I feel like Spicy Boys are acting quite bullyish. Like, they just see members of Mildly Interesting and say, like, we're gonna pick on you until you decide to leave this turf. And they're having actually pretty good success with it. They're going to have 10 for a little bit, although Sylvanas might end up falling here. Walrex with the damage. She cannot get the escape in time. Sylvanas going to fall. That is 15 seconds now before she is alive to help with this next shrine, which is activating in 3 seconds here.
And you'll see the XP is almost even. In fact, is ahead on the side of Mildly Interesting despite losing the first objective.
Yeah, they lost the first objective. Getting that pick on Sylvanas, I think, did a wonderful number for them as well. Lornado coming out, displacing Happy Pants a little bit. Wawax is getting chased, though, by Wolfren, but Ariel, going to be the focus, ends up falling here, and without the support, I don't know how much longer Spicy Boys can really stick around here.
Yeah, and look, they're still engaging, which is what amazes me. Lyra going in, trying to get the pick on Alarak, and she will succeed. Ring comes down, and the Jaina burst comes through. That is a 5-man team wipe.
That Ring of Frost, as soon as I saw the telegraph, I was just thinking, oh no. This is exactly why you don't try to push your luck, because you never know when someone's just going to unleash an ult on you when you don't have your support available. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much burst and area damage on the side of Mildly Interesting that I think Spicy Boys just needs to really make sure not to clump in these engagements.
Yeah, and I think that's a bit hard for them because I think they're trying to capitalize on the Condemn coming out.
The Punisher Leap was just wasted. Ariel gave vision to it.
No!
Oh, no!
USO!
That's actually a big deal. Now they might get the whole fort out of this instead of just the front wall.
Yeah, and they're also splitting a bit, so Esmond getting a bit of experience in the top, while some of the members of Mildly Interesting focusing on that bottom as well. But they're going to rotate up mid, see if they can actually kill off this fort. They do get the pick onto Sylvanas, and Walrex now trying to see if they can finish off on Artanis. But she might go down if they can find her. There it is. I almost was hoping she would stay in that little crevice and just being like, I'll stay here. It's safe.
If she can get stealth off and stand still for 3 seconds, they can't see her. It would have been hilarious to watch.
That would have been pretty good. Artanis, though, knew. He was like, she's in here somewhere. I just gotta wait for her to come out.
Yeah. Oh no, the Asmodan. He's so overextended.
Even left.
Looks like.
Yeah, even. And that was a magnificent physics going on there with his body. But even with 13, you can't just assume you can walk into a bush like that around your opponent's camp as well and assume that you're gonna live. Especially when you're alone.
Definitely. That's basically just minimap 101.
But we'll see if maybe Spicy Boys can use that pick to maybe start getting a little bit back in this game. They're about a third of a level away from 13, which they're trying to get. They're really focusing a lot of resources on pushing that top lane with that camp that they were able to grab. They can get down this gate. I think that puts them in a really great position for the next shrine, if they can at least grab it. Because if they lose the next one, you're looking at keep pressure at that point.
Oh yeah, definitely. And with the Sylph pressure as well, it could definitely be a massive deal. So, one thing I want to point out, Sylvanas took mind control. I don't think we've seen it used yet, but I'm really interested to see how that's going to work, because they don't have a cleanse on the side of mildly interesting, and Valeera did not go the unstoppable. So I'm wondering if the idea is just wait for Valeera to dive on someone and then just immediately mind control her.
That would be interesting. I was wondering if maybe it would be something like the Asmodan or like even the Deckard, but that's such a great point to say if you're already up in our faces, we'll make sure that you're paralyzed for a little bit if you're in there. But Lornado coming out, trying to pull Artanis in. Blizzard coming out. Jaina getting the final strike there onto Alarak. 4 also goes down in the process.
Yep, just sniping with the Jaina Frostbolts.
No big deal. I feel like that was
getting rooted here.
It was like a cool guys don't look at explosions thing. Just like throw out the Q and then walk away.
Yeah, definitely. And again, they're still fighting, even down Alarak. I'm just really concerned that they keep on overextending even when they lose members.
Yeah, they just get so eager thinking that they could potentially fight, but 1, you're down members, 2, you're again down a talent level from your opponent. We see the 16 advantage yet again for mildly interesting here. So this shrine is, do you go in? Johanna ended up hearthing. You might see a regroup in top, but they don't get 16 before they can contest this.
Yeah, I think that their best play is honestly just try to soak all of the lanes, don't fight, and just accept that you're going to lose keep off of this. Because if they fight down 16, I don't think that they're going to be able to win.
Ring of Frost going
down.
out. No incontinent necessarily. Alarak going to fall there. Wolfrin is very deep into the enemy team for the time being. Alarak's trying to hide in the shadows, wait for the opportunity to strike here.
And again, they're still fighting down Alarak. This is a 4v5 down the 16 Palantir.
Wolfrin's going to fall. It's now a 5v3 in favor of mildly interesting. And Walrax, can they get the finishing blow? Maybe onto Sylvanas and maybe onto Ariel. Instead, going to rejoin the team over at that shrine. And I have to agree with you, Park. Like, there are decisions that, even if you think mechanically you can outplay any fight, just there are certain numbers that don't add up and you have to listen to because the math doesn't always lie. So when you're down an opponent, you're down a talent tier, now's not the time to be trying to make cheeky plays like that.
Yeah, agreed. Oh, the mind control on the Valeera.
No! I think Artanis was a bit too far away, even with the rotation with the rest of the team. They don't get the pick with the mind control. And that is yet another feels bad here in this series, Park.
Yeah, that's another big cooldown used as well. They're not going to have it for this defense either.
And that is a big mildly interesting. Trying to get a pick before this Punisher even shows up. A lot of damage going on to Red Air. They get to the escape for the time being. Stasis used onto Rally, but Jaina is still going to fall, so this might be the opportunity that Spicy Boys need. They get the pick onto Deckard as well. Sneezy trying to get Valeera, but Sylvanas going to fall to the enemy team, but this Punisher is still pushing onto this keep. Spicy Boys need to start focusing on this before it does too much damage, but I'm wondering, do they even save this keep at this point?
I think that if they can bait the Punisher down to mid keep, they might be able to save it.
Wolfrey gets the camp and the kill.
I just want to hear their sigh of relief after killing that Valera.
I feel like, well, Sneezy wouldn't. Oh, USO, I was like, if you get hit by one of those ground lasers, you are toast, my friend.
Yeah, that was an extremely close call.
So we finally have 16 for Spicy Boys. They're 2 levels behind. They got a couple kills there. But they're down to keep. They have a camp pushing top. They can get some additional pressure. It looks like they're looking at this camp. Wolfrain going to find a Muradin at this bottom siege camp, though. Who wins it out is the question. She is spinning all over Happy Tans for the time being. They're going to door toss out and give it up.
I think at this point, Spicy Boys needs to just run it mildly interesting right now, because they cannot try to take another fight down 20. That is going to be a disaster zone.
Now, they do have some experience saved up in that fort that is very close to falling. So we'll see if maybe they can get that out, but mildly interesting. Already with the rotations, trying to maybe surround them on all sides here. Ralex going in onto Artanis. Silence for the time being. Let's see if Alaric can escape. The Ring of Frost goes out. Roots 1, the stasis used. USO using that Crystal Aegis. The mind control was used, but the Spicy Boys' health bars are just so low. They're on the retreat. Wolfrain's probably going to fall to Asmodan and does. Happy Pants, though, still on the chase. Gets the kill on Ariel. Walrix totally going to get this kill onto Sylvanas as well. And that was... They could absolutely end. There's already this camp pushing on top.
Yeah. Are they going to make the rotation up to top, though? Doesn't look like they are. They're just clearing the lanes.
Yeah, they're clearing the lanes, which I suppose the rotation was a bit longer. It wasn't a lane that they were currently in, so wanting to play it safer and not necessarily do anything too hastily to cost the game, because they're sitting in quite a great position. They're going to have 20 for this next shrine likely, and they are just getting picks left and right, and I feel like Mildly Interesting can take any fight at this point, so long as it's before Spicy Boys gets 20, and even then, they've got momentum on their side here.
Oh yeah, definitely. The map is basically theirs. It is Mildly Interesting's game to lose at this point. They have the 20 advantage. They're up over 2 levels. They've been winning almost every fight. And speak of the devil.
Bringer Frost used, but the mind control onto Miss Windupbird. Decker Kane taking a lot of damage, ends up walking away from it. Still, Johanna and Alarak are both going to fall. 2 picks immediately here. Not immediately, but pretty handily on the side of Mildly Interesting. They're looking a bit low, so I'd like to see them back up a bit. They're going to start rotating top, and do they threaten core here?
With 2 picks down and up 20, I definitely think they can. If they get any amount of picks here, I think it's game.
Yeah, and they're looking to try to get the pick onto Rolfrin. The Lornado goes out, trying to catch him, but all for naught. Sonya going to make it out for now, but there's a little bit of catapult pressure here as well in the favor of Mildly Interesting. But as this fight goes on, the cooldowns on the death timers for Spicy Boys get shorter and shorter. And so Alarak and Johanna spawning here soon. They're going to focus their eyes on clearing this shrine. This Punisher would surely, I think, guarantee game for Mildly Interesting. So,
yeah, I think so too. The Spicy Boys has one last chance here to try to make something happen, and if they lose, it's game over.
A lot of pressure, no big deal. But this might be your tournament lives on the line here, Spicy Boys. They're going to go in. They're trying to scope. There's 21 defenders already on the side of Mildly Interesting. That camp is absolutely going to go. I just feel like Spicy Boys, they're not getting anything by just hovering around here, so you've got to go in, and then they go. They go onto Happy Pants. They get the pick onto Muradin. 36 skeletal defenders for Mildly Interesting. They should be able to cap this. But let's see if they can get another pick in the process. Walrex, this fight is spread all over the place. Mind control used on the Deckard. Kane Stasis going out. Crystal Aegis used. The Valera goes down. Ooh, but Sylvanas falling in response. That camp is already also pushing up in that top lane against the core of Spicy Bois. The Ariel ends up falling to the punch of the Punisher here, though.
Yeah, don't underestimate John Cena.
Rule number 0 of Heroes of the Storm. Yeah, this...
And I think this looks like it is likely going to be game. Oh.
Yeah, that Lornado, I think, absolutely sealed the deal. The pick onto Sonya. This keep falls. The catapults are there. This Punisher is really healthy, mildly interesting. Looking to finish this off. Ortana's trying to go in onto Jaina, but it is... the damage just not there. And this should be GG. Mildly interesting, going 2-0 in this series. And if they could finish it off...
Just killing the Alarak for good measure. Gotta get that extra XP.
And they take it here. Absolutely. They go off to play Longhorn Gaming in their next series during the semifinals. Oh, golly gee. Well played to both teams, but mildly interesting. They just had such great team synergy, and I also just feel like draft synergy. Their drafts just made far more sense than anything that Spicy Bois was pulling out in this series.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I think in that series as well, well, one of the things that Mildly Interesting is doing is they're picking a lot of damage and then they're just murdering people. And I don't think that Spicy Bois was really drafted a whole lot to deal with that that amount of burst.
Yeah, the burst was absolutely real, both with the Kerrigan in game 1, rally on that Jaina in game 2 as well, and even, you know, the damage coming out from Aspinam, from Valera too, just so many factors building up and putting it in favor of mildly interesting. So technically an upset, number 6 seed taking down the number 3. So that's always a good story for us to tell as well here in NGS, I feel.
Yeah, agreed. I think that they were fun games to watch and fun games to cast.
Yeah, and let's see if we can get an interview from one of the members of our winning team here as soon as I can track one of them down. Let's see here. Where is Magnus? Yeah, and even looking at and here's the thing, because I feel like, especially from the caster seat, we often look at like the raw numbers and try to, you know, use that as a metric. And we saw the healing output from USO was fairly close to Deckard, but I think there's just something in that style of healing as well, where those numbers just don't do it justice. And so even though like that burst healing was there, I think Ariel, just utility-wise, wasn't bringing as much as I think Spicy Bois was possibly hoping for.
Yeah, agreed. Ariel, like, she has a stun, but it's hard to land. And Crystal Aegis it got some value that game, and it can prevent some burst, but it also is just not. It's such a crappy save because the position of the target is telegraphed for like 2 seconds in advance.
Yeah,
which is just. It's just awful. Whereas at least when you have something like a Deckard or a Stukov, you have such an incredible amount of CC to also bring to the table in addition to that. Whereas Ariel, while she kept up in healing for the most part, I'm not really sure what else she added to the composition.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's something we can maybe ask our winners about. So let's move over to Lobby 5 here. We're going to actually have a double interview with the captain and co-captain here from Mildly Interesting.
Hello.
Hello! Congratulations on your 2-0. How are you feeling right now?
Pretty good.
I think we're feeling pretty good, yeah.
We got to go to bed a little bit earlier tonight.
I'm always surprised that some of these games go so late, and I know it's West, and I know it's a Friday, but I imagine some of you are sleepy folks. But yeah, Park and I were actually just talking about some of those games, and let's talk about game number 1 for a bit. Your opponents ended up pulling out the Kel'Thuzad, the Nazebo. Was that something you were expecting, or how are you feeling about at the end of that draft once it all kind of played out?
So we were actually fighting that entire time for the draft about what heroes to pick. In the end, you know how we only drafted the very last second. It was because it was really like tooth and nails who to pick. So their pick in KT and Zebo, dude, I didn't see that coming at all. Did you see that, Ashley?
I definitely didn't. We haven't researched them too much, but we know they play a great Alarak, as I'm sure we all just saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you were
Their
just...
Kel'Thuzad was really, really good.
Yeah, but I feel like even though he was really good, he didn't really have much of an impact in the fights.
Yeah, that's one of the things we noticed too, that some of the combos were there, and when the follow-up was there too, and when Kel'Thuzad could actually nail everything perfectly, we saw, your Kerrigan get melted, your Cassia get melted, but it was few and far between, and so I think they really struggled there. Were you as surprised as us that they let the Kerrigan through?
Yes, we were so happy though.
Dude, it was amazing.
We were like, first pick, we're gonna lock in Kerrigan as soon as possible if she's not banned.
Dude, we've barely been able to play Kerrigan at all in Team League. She's always first pick, first ban, and so we're so happy we actually got to play her in the tournament. It's amazing.
Awesome. Park, I'll hand it over to you for a couple questions if you have any.
Sure. So I guess my first question is about the Malfurion Sonya hero pool. So you did not go Malfurion or Sonya game 2. So I was just curious, do you just always pick those heroes because they're complete comfort, or is this like almost mind games where you know that you have like this big array of heroes, but you only play 2 of them?
I'll be honest, it's just happened to turn out every single game that either no one else wants to heal or we need an offlaner, so I picked either my best offlaner or my best healer, so it's sort of how it's always just been. Right. I almost always play offlaner or healer. I was an offlaner, and Malfurion and Sonya. Yeah.
All right, that makes sense.
Yeah, I was actually very worried about that coming into this game, because I wasn't sure if your opponents had necessarily looked into that as well and were going to target ban you out of it, which it looked like they did with the Malfurion. And I wasn't sure if that was going to end up biting you, but it looks like you've got a lot of pocket picks that no one's really, not even pocket picks, just other picks you haven't had the chance to play. So, I mean, it sounds like you must have been stoked to play the Asmodan.
Dude, it was so fun. And I was actually thinking about going to Haka originally, or Abathur, but then when my mission Asmo, the whole team was like, yes! Because the thing is, everyone else, they were always 4v5ing, always in the front line, while I was sort of in the back just getting the shrines. Because as long as they can hold on long enough, then we could just get the Infernal and push through. And the Deckard Roots, by the way, I'd like to point out, they won us several this team fights, and then the Jaina rings as well, those 2 things were so crucial. Did you guys see that ring?
Some of those rings, I was just like, this is happening right now. Especially, there was
the triple ring.
The top shrine when Spicy Boys was already down a member and they were still going in, and then suddenly, boom, Ring of Frost, lock in 3, and then just obliterated.
Yeah, we were really excited about that ring.
It was a good ring.
Dude, we were all shouting.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Someone's got to go back in and clip that as well, just so you have that eternalized for yourselves.
Yeah, we were excited. We got to play some different heroes this game. I know we have that standard, that you guys mentioned, but we do like to change it up, so maybe we'll get to do that next game too.
Yeah. And speaking of your next game, you're going to be going up against Longhorn Gaming in the semifinals for Div D West. What are your initial thoughts on the matchup going into it?
I think we're kind of nervous. I know
they're
a good team. They're number 2 team. They're pretty solid win streaks.
I'm pretty sure they're one of the 2 teams we lost against as well, right?
They're one of the 2 teams that had
dominated us.
Games.
So it's pretty invigorating getting the chance for a rematch, though. To reclaim our lost honor, so to speak. But
that seems to be a theme that always happens toward the end of playoffs, because I know last season, finals for Div B East ended up being Heroes of the United States versus Gilly Shark, and Gilly Shark had beaten Heroes first game of the season, and so Heroes were just like, we are here for revenge, and they ended up getting it. And so you love to see the revenge stay with you the entire season, waiting for the moment that you can face them again. So I appreciate it.
We'll definitely try some different comps, and we were watching their game against Rainbow Spectrum tonight, so trying to scout a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those.
Awesome.
Maybe if you're casting, we'll get a Probius pick for you.
You know,
So-
I've been burned so many times by people saying that, and it just
We
never.
tried
No.
tonight, but it just didn't fit in.
Sometimes a little boy just doesn't work. Well, thanks again for joining us. Congratulations. Before we let you go, though, we will give the floor over to you for any shoutouts that you have to celebrate your victory tonight.
I
Zach,
think
you wanna answer?
Yeah, so I think it's just really I give the shout out to our team. Even though we argue constantly, we end up really pulling together in those crucial moments and sort of we came. It's really a fun experience.
Yeah, this is our first time on the NGS, so we'll give a shout out to you guys too for all the hard work that you guys put in so that we can play. We enjoy it. So
Oh,
Yeah, and thanks for casting us. It's really fun being casted.
oh, it's our pleasure. So we're happy you're enjoying it,
Always.
and we're happy that you're having fun. I think that's the most important thing of NGS is that everyone has a good time. So that is music to my ears, to be honest.
yeah, and we'll definitely have to go back and watch those videos so we can see that ring again.
Awesome. Well, I will let you go. Congratulations again, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
All right,
You too.
yeah, you too.
Thanks.
Thanks again for casting us.
Oh,
See ya.
of course.
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here. There's a game 3 going on right now that we'll send you all over to. It looks like Div C West has Sidestep versus Psycho Swarm going on, so we'll pass you over there in just a little bit. But before we do, number one, observation tonight, usually done by me when I host these games, but tonight we had the lovely Falendrith coming in and taking care of that for us. So all that beautiful camera work, please give him a shout out and thanks, Val, for doing it. Really appreciate it. And Park, thank you for joining me for this. I know we had some weird scheduling things going on this week for these games, but thanks for coming on. And if people want to find you, where do you lurk around the internet?
Best place to find me is probably arguing with random tasks somewhere on the NGS Discord. Or else, I guess if I ever stream, you can check out my Twitch page, which has nothing on it right now. But in case
Soon.
you wanna bet, there might be something eventually.
Well, now that you said it, there's motivation for you to do that. So.
Oh no, what have I done?
What have you done? Let's see. Sunday we will have I think the final Division D West game hosted here as well, and we'll have Tyro back for that one as well. So make sure to check that out. But that's gonna wrap it all up for tonight. So thanks everyone for coming in and cheering for these teams and for supporting NGS, and we will see you next time. And make sure you go raid Cody Kratz on that game. That'll be happening in a little bit. So make sure you go check him out, say hello, and we will see you next time. So thanks again. Have a great night.
Night.